Well, did you have a good St. Patrick's Day? Definitely. Okay, that's good. That's good. It's nice to be able to celebrate and share good times with friends and so on. Those are always precious and wonderful opportunities. And it's nice to get away into, as we said in the opening, in our candle ceremony, to take all of your worries and troubles and so on, and as best as possible, put them aside and just enjoy the moment. I wondered if I could, and without embarrassing anybody publicly or anything like that, if I could have a show of hands. How many people have read the Bible? Yeah, beginning to end. How many people have read the New Testament? Well, that's good. And the reason why I ask is that today's gospel, in many respects, is directing us in that path. And you're probably thinking, how can you possibly take this gospel and interpret it to mean that? Consider for a moment that 3 of Christ's followers go up the mountain with him, and there in the mountain, they're witness to this magnificent occurrence. Not only do they see Moses and Elijah, 2 of the key prophets of the Old Testament, they hear the voice of God, and they see the manifestation of God in Jesus being transfigured. What a tremendously momentous occasion. Now, the gospel that's listed today leaves out a little bit of the actual story. While this had been occurring, the apostles rested, and then they wake up when this is going on, this meeting with Moses and Elijah. And it's a nice contrast to Holy Thursday night, when they fall asleep in the garden. And the issue of them at this point not falling asleep shows a great opportunity. And the opportunity they face is to now, in a wholehearted way, expand their belief, their faith. When we have an opportunity to pray, we converse with God. Now, many of us, when we go to schools and so on, we learn various prayers. The Our Father, which we sing so beautifully and wonderfully here every Sunday. Glory be to the Father, angel of God. Those, I guess for lack of better terminology, traditional prayers, which help us to begin the conversation. But in praying to God, we have the chance to dialogue with God. And that's a rare opportunity to open up our hearts and our minds to hear what God has to say to us. I think you may have heard this before. Prayer isn't always us talking. I don't know, well, God has infinite patience, but I wonder if God, I get tired of us always nattering. So prayer involves more than that. It involves listening. And I found, and I'd like to share this with you, I found that reading Scripture, reading the Bible, has enabled me to pray at a much deeper level. I'm not saying it's better than anything else, I'm just saying at a much deeper level. And I think we're very fortunate in this country. Number one, we have the opportunity to purchase a Bible and read it. You can walk down the street carrying your Bible and no one's going to arrest you for that. We're also extremely fortunate that the English translations of the Bible, there are several of them, And if you want a really traditional approach, you can get the King James version with the these, the thines, and the thous. Or you can move to, let's call it, more modern approaches. It doesn't matter. It's whatever you're comfortable with. And I thought I'd take the gospel reading today and just share with you a couple of different versions. The Poverty and Justice Bible, which I've read several times, does an excellent job. Let me share this with you. 6 days later, Jesus took Peter and the brothers James and John with him. They went up on a very high mountain where they could be alone. There in front of the disciples, Jesus was completely changed. His face was shining like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. All at once, Moses and Elijah were there talking with Jesus. So Peter said to him, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While Peter was still speaking, the shadow of a bright cloud passed over him. From the cloud came a voice, "This is my own dear son, and I am pleased with him. Listen to what he says." When the disciples heard the voice, they were so afraid that they fell flat on the ground. But Jesus came over and touched them. He said, "Get up and don't be afraid." When they opened their eyes, they saw only Jesus. On their way down from the mountain, Jesus warned his disciples not to tell anyone what they had seen until after the Son of Man had been raised from death. And this is from a newer version. It's called The Message. And it's written by Eugene Peterson. Pastor Peterson spent 10 years putting this together. This was his teaching Bible, in the sense that when he spoke to his congregation, he felt that the formalities, the formal language, wasn't adequate enough to express, I shouldn't say adequate enough, it wasn't meeting the needs of the congregation. And so here's what he writes about this same event. Just have to find it there. Okay. 6 days later, 3 of them saw that glory. Jesus took Peter and the brothers, James and John, and led them up a high mountain. His appearance changed from the inside out, right before their eyes. Sunlight poured from his face. His clothes were filled with light. Then they realized that Moses and Elijah were also there in deep conversation with him. Peter broke in, "Master, this is a great moment. What would you think if I built 3 memorials here on the mountain? One for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah." While he was going on like this, babbling, a light radiant cloud enveloped them, and sounding from deep in the cloud a voice, "This is my son, marked by my love. Focus on my delight. Listen to him." When the disciples heard it, they fell flat on their faces, scared to death. But Jesus came over and touched them. "Don't be afraid." When they opened their eyes and looked around, all they saw was Jesus. Coming down the mountain, Jesus swore them to secrecy. "Don't breathe a word of what you have seen. After the Son of Man is raised from the dead, you are free to talk." So if you have a preference for scripture written in, I guess, layman's terms, the Message is a good one to read. And if you're, well, I guess many people, when I first began, I needed a guide, a study guide, to look at Scripture. Because there are a lot of nuances and translations and just the history, which we've had an opportunity to talk about quite a bit. Zondervan published this wonderful handbook to the Bible. And these are, by the way, these are also very cheap, financially cheap versions. Available at Searchlight there